So this is the game Warriors of God. This is the wars of England and France between 1135 to 1453. So a lot of time space covered, but it has two scenarios. One on the 100 Years' War, and the other one is the Lion in the Winter, which is the one that's set up right now. This is basically the time period before the 100 Years' War, where the our Carthaginian Empire is being fought over, and created and fought over at this time period. This game has a beautiful map, great counters, nice large counters, and this is kind of a very simple, easy introduction to war games. You hear a lot of comments, oh, the game is too much luck in it because the leaders die, because there's each turn covers a very long period, and the leader death check happens progressively with leaders. So your leaders might die before you even get to use them, which is a very small percentage on every turn, but it increases as the leaders get older. But this is totally thematic in this game. Combat is basic, buckets of dice a little bit, and you're trying to control all these things, but it's a very quick, low complexity game, a great introduction game, and it's been out for years, and it's kind of interesting seeing people talk online about what are good, simple war games, and they think there's very few of them, but there's quite a lot. You just have to find them and pick which one you like. But this one's good. Is that light rules, area control. Yes, there's a lot of luck in it, but also playing historical war games compared to Euro games, you got to learn how to deal with luck, whereas most Euros you don't have that per se. But this game is quite aesthetically nice. Too bad that the next third game in this series is not going to be done on this production level of big counters. It's going to be a magazine game through MMP. They did one on Japan, but the map is not as, I felt, as good, and the game just never clicked with me. But still, a very good, the Japanese one is very good, light rules like this one, and a good intro game. But this game is quite fun, because in this scenario here, the leaders, at some point the British will get Robin Hood, and the 100 Years' War you get Joan of Arc as a leader. And the other interesting thing for this game is that it's all kind of most about your leaders. Is you have the band here of what side. So this one is a French side English leader who is in England when he starts. But if he dies, this is the next leader that comes up, and you put him on. I put him on the turn track, so turn 6 he'll come in. But the other leaders you have with the black line here are how do they call it? They're basically unaligned leaders. So This can be a English one, or it can be a French one. And you roll to see what alignment it is, but on the first turn, each side with the highest die roll gets to pick, because the other unaligned leader is the Scottish king, David. It can be English or French. The French player chose this one, and the English player chose that one in the setup. And here you have its command and battle rating, and then the stars is its rank. So how many troops it can move around, how many it can use in battle, and its modifier in battle. And the game centered on killing the leaders, taking control of areas, and basically you have your victory point track. And the other cool thing in battle, you can capture leaders, which if you don't ransom them, it earns victory points for either side, and it's based on impulse on the turn. So the impulses are done by a die roll, and whoever wins the die roll has the most points, and the player that didn't win the initiative, he has one less on the turn. And that's basically it. We shall see other units come in: knights, cannons, and mercenaries. Mercenaries here in Wales, here Savoy, Luxembourg, or Netherlands. And the ones with the mark here is the victory points of control. And we'll see how this turns out. So this is a situation after turn 1. The French player had King David I come into England to support Stephen, and Matilda came up from Normandy and had a battle. It was touch and go. The English player almost got kicked out because they kept missing, but they rolled very luckily and got 4 hits in one go, which really caused the French player to basically lose the battle. Then reinforcements here in England put in Thomas Becket and covered that. They moved Godfrey up here to Normandy to try to take control, but it didn't work. And then Henry came in. The French player kept Louis here to take control of Ile-de-France. And then they took Geoffroy of Anjou in the reinforcements, and the English player got Eleanor of Aquitaine, and they're gonna fight over this on the second round. But victory points wise, it was basically even, so no change on that front. And we have a French leader down here in Languedoc. And so on to second turn. So this is the status at the start of turn 3. So what we had here was King Louis VII came in here and tried to take Normandy from Henry II. Robert Gloucester came to help from England. Massive battle. Louis was routed, didn't die, which was good. but he left Ile-de-France open, and Thomas Becket came out here, across to here and there, and then poor Raymond V from Languedoc, he came up and tried to defend Ile-de-France, lost the battle and died. Over here, Geoffrey Arjou defended Anjou, forced Godfrey V out. He ran away, and then he died in Brittany on his end of turn, leader death. And then we have Gerard. Yeah. Here fought with Eleanor of Aquitaine. She lost and ran away and survived. And up here, Margaret of Normandy came to try to take control of Scotland. Didn't do that. New leaders that came on board. Henry of Anjou was picked by the French player, and then the English got Walter of Guildford. And he was able to take control of the 3 troops that were raised here, because the French player was non-initiative, whereas the English were, so they only got Richard of Lucy. He only got 1 guy here, and he came in, so he's the aggressor. And that was of note. And Louis came back and gained, and he's reinforced by Robert. And so Thomas Becket there is in a bit of a pinch, but his combat die is way higher than these 2 guys, so he's got a nice chance to survive with his 2 guys. 2, 4. With Henri over here. And that's the start of turn 3. So this is the start of the 4th turn. Things did not go well for the English side. Big battle in England. Henry of Anjou maintained, took control. English got the reinforcements here. The big problem for the English is Richard I is now under French, because they got to pick first, and they took him, and the French were able to gain some more control here. English maintained Normandy. The French have got guys coming in, and yes, Matilda up in Scotland died. Eleanor of Aquitaine was died by battle, and yeah, the English side, Thomas Becket was captured. They tried to ransom him, and he failed his leader death role, and they ransomed him by losing control of Wales as a hope to get him back, and he rolled a 1 and died. So that was unfortunate for the English player in turn 3. So in turn 4, we'll see if they can turn the French tide, but we shall. So this is the status at the start of turn 5. English were able to take back England, and they defeated Henry Anjou and routed him, and then he came back as an English leader, so he switched sides. Poor Richard I died right after his first turn, rolled a 1, died, but he did take control of Aquitaine for the French player. The French player tried to attack Normandy, was knocked back because he didn't roll anything. Everything else kind of maintained. Some of the new leaders, like they got William I here up in Scotland, and then also Geoffrey of Brittany, and to cause more headaches for the French English player. And so that was just 2 battles on turn 4, but they were pretty major. And but the French have up to 8 victory points. Oh, the areas here could have been taken controlled. They rolled 1s, but since they have mercenaries, there was no way that they could take control of these areas. So that was kind of a bad idea, taking those along for these leaders. And this is the beginning of turn 6. Turn 5 was quite quick. We had very few impulses to work with. We only had 1 battle here with the Henry Anjou in Scotland. He captured William I. He was rotting right now, but it gave him some extra victory points, but the French have now increased the lead by up to 12. But the French rolled pretty poorly on the leaders. All the kings, everybody in Ile-de-France died. And people here in Anjou, Orleans, died. And so this is quite the problem for the French, but they're holding their own. And we'll see what happens in turn 6. Yeah, with I kind of misplaced somebody that needed to go here, was Geoffrey Plantagenet. Is that everybody rolls for their deaths and then you place the leaders. I put the leaders out too soon and I forgot I could place them there because the French leaders died and they could be able to take that. But the other interesting to note, Robert of Gloucester here came on at the setup, and he's gonna die this turn, but he survived every turn and contributed a little bit, whereas other leaders came in like Richard Lionheart and died that very turn. And so just a minor correction, and then on to turn 6. So this is the status at the beginning of the turn 7. You see the French here, trying to stay out of the glare. The light. English took back Anjou. Robin Hood is still holding Ile-de-France. We've got Burgundy coming in here. The England is being still held. Wales, but the French got Hughes LeBlanc here in Scotland, so it's a threat for the English in their rear. But it was another quick impulse turn. Basically 3 and 2, and so far the English have been keeping the initiative, but that's kind of problematic, is that the non-initiative player gets always to choose the leaders, so it's been kind of problematic for the English player. The French still haven't had a king for a while, and also we have got both got captured leaders, but French is all the way at 17 now, and we got so this is the 7th turn, so we're entering the last half of the game. So on to turn. So this is the beginning of turn 8. The French were able to take Scotland. They were able to take remove control of England in this battle here. And put that, because John Lackland, King John, came down here to defend Normandy, and defended it. They were able to remove control of Brittany. The French used Robin Hood to take Anjou, or remove the control. And that was the big battles there. Anjou, Normandy, England, and but the French are getting very close to victory. A couple leaders were captured and released. Some were lost, died in battle. And the other interesting note, he's surviving to the bitter end. No one died on their first round like Richard the Lionheart did, but mostly everybody lasts about 2 or 3 turns, and yeah, the French are pulling through, but because they are able to control more areas and keep enough nuisance attacks on the areas that the English control, whittling them down, and also the English losing a lot of their leaders earlier in the game allowed the French the pause to kind of just use the leaders to take control, instead of attacking with them, leaving basically the French players just leaving the leaders that come in on their home areas just to stay there for the turn, take control, and then move on in the next turns. And so far that little strategy has been working out for them. Basically they're just keeping the back area, taking control, and just keeping the English bottled up here at Normandy and England. So on to turn 8. So this is the end of the 8th turn, and actually the end of the game. The French won. At the end of this turn, they lost quite a bit of their leaders, but the English were actually getting a lot of leaders back. They had 2 captured, both were brought back. They didn't lose any to death, whereas the French lost quite a bit of people. But since they had the areas covered here, and they gained more victory points for this turn and brought them up to 30, and won. So yeah, so this is the scenario of the Lion of the Winter, and you can kind of see it's like the French, even if with the chaotic loss of leaders, if you can start getting these areas controlled and keeping the English kind of tied up, and you can pretty much gain your victory points really over the long haul, as it were. So that kind of is one of the strategies of the randomness of the die with the leaders. But as people criticize this game of being too random, but it's like every game you play of this game with the randomness, it will be always different. So that's a plus for some. And what it's good for an intro game is with the chaos of the randomness, you have to play with the changings of the wind, and if you can handle the game and play with all that randomness and win, I guess you're a better player, maybe, maybe. But it's just allows the replayability of this game to keep it fresh in a way. So, yeah, whereas this, I think the 100 Years' War has a little different rules on the transferring troops along the river, and I think the English kind of have a bit of a control over certain areas where the French. So we'll see how that one is compared to this one.